about 20 years, the main form of selling and purchasing music was through compact discs. And then over the past 10 years or so, it finally went digital in the form of MP3 and WAV and other formats, but MP3 was the most dominant format. Most of it early on was illegal through like Napster and Kazaa and torrents and all that. And the record labels weren't too happy about the digital system because they didn't make as much money as they made through CDs. But eventually it became the norm, so they had to give in and start selling their music through digital means. The main reason it got popular was because of the iPod and all MP3 players. There were millions and millions of iPods sold over the last 10 years or so, in different forms and sizes and whatnot. And there were other versions of MP3 players from other companies, but the iPod was the dominant one. Pretty much every music lover had an iPod at one point or another. But over the past year or so, the past couple of years, people have moved on to the iPhone and to the Android because they realized that as cool as the iPod was, they can do everything the iPod could do, they could do on their iPhone or on the Android. So anyway, the major record labels decided, okay, we have to do this. We can't do CDs anymore. And Apple decided to create the iTunes Music Store. They already had their iTunes player for the iPod, where you plug the iPod in and transfer music. Then they finally started selling music. And all the record labels were cool with it. They all joined with Apple, and they would sell music, and every song would be 99 cents, and did really, really well. Apple completely dominated the digital music format. There were a few others that tried. You had Microsoft and Best Buy and Rhapsody, and even Napster, in a legal way, tried to create a business, but most of them didn't do very well. It was pretty much just Apple was the dominant one. But anytime you have one dominant software, which is basically like a monopoly, that's when you start having issues, because Apple knew all music that was legally purchased, pretty much 90% of it was going through them. So they wanted a bigger percentage of the money, and of course the record labels, they wanted a bigger percent, and of course the actual musicians who made the music, they wanted a bigger percent. So there was a lot of fighting, a lot of infighting, a lot of contract negotiations, and record labels threatening to leave and whatnot. So during that time, all these other companies said, okay, we have to get into this business now. Apple's the dominant one, but they're really struggling. The record labels aren't very happy, so let's jump in there. But most of them would start up, and they would offer special deals, and they would fail, and it just never worked out. But the one company that was actually able to give serious competition to iTunes was Amazon. Because Amazon.com had been around for several years. It was a really big company, like $1 billion company. It was very trusted, it was respected, it did really well. They sold, books and movies and CDs and Blu-rays and toys and everything. And so for them to go to digital music wasn't that big of a stretch. They already had the network set up. So the main difference between Amazon and iTunes, the actual digital music itself is it's pretty much the same. The digital catalog, when record labels decide, okay, we're going to release this certain amount of music through digital means, it goes to everyone, whether it's Amazon or iTunes or whatever. So if you're looking for a song to purchase online, if you find it on Amazon, you can find it on iTunes and vice versa. One advantage that Amazon has over iTunes, though, is that Amazon doesn't charge tax. But not just on digital music, but any of their products, they don't charge tax. But iTunes does. So if you're purchasing a 99-cent song on Amazon, it really is 99 cents. But on iTunes, it's like $1.07 or $1.08, whatever. Which you think, a few cents isn't that big of a deal. But if you're purchasing a lot of music, it does add up over time. Now, as far as like the ease of use, the iTunes platform is way better than Amazon, because iTunes, they already had their player, and people were already comfortable with the iTunes player because of the iPod success and the iPhone success. And within the iTunes player, you could just click one button, immediately be at the store and purchase music, and it's already inside of that player. And with Amazon, you actually had to go to the website, and you had to, because Amazon sells so many products, you had to go through so much stuff, go to the music store, make sure you're looking at digital music, because they also sell CDs. So you had to be careful, because they look very much the same on the website. You might purchase digital music, and it's actually a CD, because you weren't really paying attention or whatever. Because of the iTunes, it was just so much easier. You just clicked it, done, and it's right there. And with Amazon, they don't have their own music player. And they never created one, which was actually a smart move, because people are pretty stubborn with their music players. Like if you like iTunes, you're going to stick with that. Or if you like Windows Media Player, you're going to stick with that. And no one wants, whether it's on their iPhone or Android or on their laptop or whatever, you don't want 20 different apps that do the exact same thing just for playing music. So normally you stick with one and that's it. And Amazon knew that. So they decided, okay, if you purchase a song through Amazon, you could just click one little setting and it would download to your computer and then immediately go to your iTunes. And it would actually just put it in there and it would be all nice and neat with the band and the album and the song and all that stuff. So it was really smart on their part. But as far as the ease of use, overall, iTunes is better than Amazon. But recently, over the past year or so, the latest technology is the cloud. And what's cool about the cloud is basically it's like an online storage system. And anything you purchase actually is online on some server, whether it's Amazon or iTunes or whatever. As far as the cloud, Amazon kind of has the upper hand over iTunes. Amazon started their cloud music player probably about 6 months before iTunes did. And what's cool about the Amazon one is if you purchase a song through Amazon, you can download it onto your computer, you can put it on your iPod, you can burn a CD, whatever, but that song will always remain on the Amazon cloud. So if something happens, if you drop your iPhone and break it, or your computer dies or whatever, that song is still there. It remembers in your account that you already purchased it and you can re-download it as many times as you want. Now with iTunes, they have sort of a similar thing. It's called Music Match, but you can only download what you purchased just in that time. And you also can't stream. With Amazon, you can stream songs if you want, because with most modern phones, as you all know, because you're on your phones, that you have tons of apps and you only have so much space. You might buy 100 songs, 1,000 songs, 10,000 songs. And the phones or laptops or iPads or whatever, they can only hold so much. So the great thing about Amazon Cloud Player is you don't actually have to download it. You can just stream it through their server. And it's not taking up space and getting in the way of your apps and all that. With iTunes, they don't offer that. You can re-download as often as you want, but you actually have to physically download it to the player that you have. Let's see. As far as musicians, a lot of musicians prefer Amazon over iTunes because Apple's really, especially in the early days, Apple was really particular about everything had to be 99 cents. That was their big marketing thing when they started out. Every song was 99 cents. But some bands didn't want to sell songs individually, particularly like a band like Radiohead. They only wanted to sell albums as a whole album. Like for certain albums like OK Computer, they wanted it to be played from start to finish and not be sold individual, like just pick songs randomly. And iTunes said, okay, well, we don't do that. We only sell songs individually. So they said, okay, we're not going to work with you. But Amazon was more open to it, and they basically said, we'll sell the songs however you want. We'll bundle it as a full album or a greatest hits or however you want. We'll work with you. So the musicians really like it more with Amazon than they do with iTunes. I would say overall, as far as consumers, I think most consumers base things on price, and I would say if you're going just on price, I would go with Amazon because it's a little bit cheaper. They both have their pros and cons, but I think Amazon is the better overall. Okay, is there any questions? Yes.
Why are some songs $1.29 on iTunes?
Okay.
As opposed to 99 cents.
Yeah, some songs for years and years they were all 99 cents, and then basically there's only 5 record labels in the United States. Anytime you buy a CD at Hastings or Walmart or wherever, it's coming from 5 labels, because every label bought up all the small labels. There's like 5 labels, and at least 3 of those labels, I can't think of the names right now, but at least 3 of them said, okay, 99 cents isn't enough, we want more. And they said, okay, we want $1.29. So iTunes, Apple said, well, okay, we'll do that. Of course, they don't advertise that because that's boring. They kept saying 99 cents, and then once the 99 cents went away, then they just don't mention it anymore. But a lot of their songs, I'd say maybe a third, maybe a fourth of their music is $1.29 now for individual songs. But with Amazon, it's still 99 cents, even though technically the song is $1.29, but you're only paying 99. Because Amazon is willing to take a loss on each song that you purchase because they want you to go to that website. Even though there's that, 30 cents difference, they're willing to take that. No, maybe not a loss, but they're not making a profit. So they're willing to just break even because they need to drive traffic to Amazon because they're thinking, okay, if you buy a song, maybe you'll also buy a book or a shirt or a toy or a Blu-ray or whatever. So they're willing to, take that 30 cents hit. It's kind of like a loss leader, like at a casino gives a free buffet or something. They know you're going to spend $50 at the casino, so they don't care. It's kind of the same thing. Any other questions?
How do retail stores compete with the online music sales, like Target and Walmart and Best Buy?
Yeah. Some of them in the early days, like the tech stores, like Best Buy and Circuit City and stuff like that, they were always based on CDs, and CDs would take up most of their floor in the stores. And then once CDs kind of, no one was buying them anymore, that the CD section got smaller and smaller and smaller, and Best Buy started selling music online. It really didn't do very well. It was kind of, the website was kind of ugly, and it wasn't easy to use. And as far as Best Buy, they eventually gave up, and they basically forward you to iTunes. If you had like say you got a Best Buy gift card for Christmas, and you went to their website, they would send you on to iTunes. They basically said, forget it, we're not going to bother, and just give it to iTunes. Now, like with Walmart, Walmart.com has a really big music selection. It does really well because it's Walmart. But for them, it's still kind of for Walmart, it's not really a big deal because they're a billion-dollar company or multi-billion-dollar company. So digital music is like nothing to them. They can have it or not. But if they have it, that brings more people to their website, more people to their stores. So they'll do it. So they'll be willing to help out Apple because Walmart wants Apple. They want the iPhones and the iPads to be sold in the stores. So they'll do whatever they can to make Apple happy to sell their products. But with Amazon, they're not going to try to help out Amazon because that's like competition. So, okay, that's it. Any other questions? No? Okay, we're done.
Yay!